Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Don MacDonald. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at MX, and I'm joined with several colleagues who are going to help us with the webinar today. We have on the bridge, on the line, Amanda Elam, Director of Marketing at MX, Michael Harrington, who runs our digital marketing capabilities, and Patricia Barassa, VP of Sales and Marketing at PageFlex. And today what we're going to talk is give you some examples of how to manage segmentation and personalization in a regulated space. So as marketers, we all know and understand the value of segmentation, and there's many types. Generally, they're all compromises in how you would actually try and narrow down your target audience, starting with a huge mass of people. And of course, we use lots of different types of segmentation, including geographic, demographic, psychographic, behavioral, and many, many, many more. And today in the digital age, really the goal, the aspiration should be, how do I actually get down to a segmentation of one? And what we'd like to do today is just to give you a few examples of how we do that between PageFlex and MX. So just to recap, sometimes in my experience, I think we sometimes forget exactly what we're trying to do. And so it's just worth providing what I consider to be the 4 golden rules of targeting and marketing. Rule number 1 is who is your audience, and also who is not your audience. And that helps tremendously in terms of being very, very precise. It's marketing 101, defining your audience with precision. Secondly, what do you want them to do? Once you've segmented them, do you want them to go to a website? Or if this was an election, you know, who's your audience? You don't want to necessarily have a Democratic dollars being spent on Sarah Palin, for example, or you can pick your favorite examples of this. But for people who may be diehard Democrats or indeed Republicans, what do you want them to do? You want them to get out. You want them to go vote. You want them to donate money. You want them to take someone to the polling stations. So be very clear about what you want them to do. Thirdly, what are you going to say? What's your messaging for each and every one of those segments? And finally, of course, which is where the majority of effort seems to go before really identifying steps 1, 2, and 3, how are you going to reach them? Is it going to be media? Is it going to be events? Is it going to be direct mail? Is it going to be digital? Those 4 things need to happen in sequence, but the key thing is identifying your audience with precision. So in a couple of environments or a couple of industries, resources can be severely impacted by the fact that the financial industry, which is where MX plays, and the medical industry are unarguably the 2 most regulated industries on the planet. What you say, how you say, the claims you make are highly, highly monitored and regulated. And so it sometimes can be very, very difficult to get IT assistance in helping to build lists of the segments and get help, if you like, even in executing the campaigns to the various segments that you've identified. So what we wanted to do was to show you how some of the technology, particularly for, in this case, the MX example, give you a demo of how simple and easy it can be if you use technology to help you with the provision of insights and targets. So what we're going to do here is show you an example. We actually built a couple of platforms. One's called Insight to help you identify those segments, and the second's called Target. And I'll do a very, very quick and simple demo to show you exactly how this works. So in this case, we're looking at, if we go into Insight, the scenario here is you're a financial institution with hundreds of thousands of members. You're trying to grow. Historically, there's 3 ways to grow. You either acquire other institutions and merge with them. You either spend huge amounts of money on traditional marketing where you don't really know the audience, but your message would be very simple. Come join us, get a credit card, open an account. And the third way is to basically use hyper-personalized and really specific targeting and segmenting to have a communication with that audience. So in this case, we've got 400,000 users, 400 to 500,000 users, and we can actually see those users. We can use something called discovered accounts. If the customer's aggregated, meaning they've actually pulled together all of their financial life from their Wells Fargo accounts or their Citi mortgage or their Ally car loan or whatever it might be, then they would be visible to you. But even if they're not, we have something called discovered accounts that basically allows the analytics and the data from the MX platform to, as the name suggests, discover what accounts people have that belong to another institution. And so we're not going to go into great detail on this, but basically that's how it works. The data behind here allows you to target and segment with precision. So we'll go into the target, having identified and got insights into our hundreds of thousands. In this case, if I am the person responsible for growing the credit card portfolio, then I can do some things that are just simply amazing. The first thing is I would actually go into the target application, and we've got a number of pre-built segments that we can use. But in this case, we're going to do a custom one, just to show you very quickly on here. So we're going to build a credit card, we're going to build a segmentation model, and what we're interested in is we're interested in our customers who have a credit card with someone else. And so by using Insight and Target, we can actually begin to say, okay, I can see everyone who has a credit card that belongs externally. It could be a Capital One credit card, a B of A, a Chase, whatever it might be, but basically someone else's credit card. I can then add in filters and say, you know, I'm not going to be very competitive unless it's above 7%. So I'd like to be able to filter through anyone with a credit card that's greater than 7%. And so in this case, we're using the slider to basically just very simply choose where that model should be. And in this case, the filter's from 7% and onwards. We could actually add in other filters, which could include people with a balance, for example, or people who have had a fee. And all of this comes from the data streams that MX actually collects. And so that level of precision allows us to say, you know, we know exactly the profile of these particular target customers. Let's just put no balance on there. And so in the case we have here, we've managed to filter down from hundreds of thousands of people down. In this case, it's come up just because we picked the numbers on here with a very small number. But normally it would be something like 50,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever it might be. And so you end up getting the visibility, you end up getting the ability to be able to identify with precision. And then with that information, you can actually select an ad very simply. In the interest of time, we're not going to show it on here, but literally you can just link that and say, hey, I'd like to serve up this ad on the mobile phone or on the online banking screen, and you can just select from your library of existing ads. You can link it to your sign up for our credit card. You can hyper-personalize it with some other tools that would be to the name of the person, the actual amount of savings they could have if you moved them across, and then obviously that would vary depending on whether the balance changes over the next few days. The point being is that we go down from having hundreds of thousands of people to the 1,000, the 2,000, even the 2 people, the 10 people, where we can actually have hyper-personalized and dynamic offerings. And this is just a very quick illustration of how we can move away from very broad brushstrokes with segmentation models in the past towards using data and analytics to be able to target to an audience of 1 or an audience of 2, and of course more. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Michael and to Amanda, and what they're going to do is just basically take you through some of the other tools we use as part of our segmentation capabilities at MX.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for walking us through that. So Don was able to take you through our Insight tool and how we're able to use our target tool inside of your online banking environment and your mobile banking environment. But what's really important to us as marketers is that we are executing these campaigns across multiple channels. So while you build the segments inside of Insight, you can export those lists and actually use them on different channels. So what we're going to talk you through now is the different tools and technologies that we use at MX to actually execute those personalized campaigns across multiple channels. You can see on the slide that you're looking at now that we really look at this in 2 buckets. The database drives everything, but the way marketing actually functions is we use our marketing automation tool, and then we have a lot of other tools that integrate to that marketing automation tool that support the efforts of our marketing automation. And then we have our through channel tools. So that's where we're actually working through the sales team or through our channel partners. And so Michael really heads up the integration of those systems and the systems that we selected and how they all work together. So he's actually going to take us through some of the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis so you can get a flavor for what we do at MX.
Thanks, Amanda. The first tool we're going to jump into is Hubspot. And when we talk about our marketing tech stack, Hubspot is really at the core of everything we do, not only because of the fact that we use their full software suite, but also because they really champion the inbound ideology in marketing. And between inbound and account-based marketing, That really builds up the core of our marketing strategy as a whole. And from an automation standpoint, we've used various different softwares in the past for different projects. We've used MailChimp for some email marketing. We previously used Marketo for our marketing automation. And with each of these cases, there was an issue that came up that limited what we were trying to do. In the case of MailChimp, that's simply an email marketing provider. It doesn't have a lot of automation behind it. It's just that email piece. And with Marketo, there were some sophisticated things you could do with it, but it traditionally required more more IT intervention to be able to really execute on these campaigns, which limited our marketing team's autonomy. And so HubSpot really found a happy medium in being nearly a one-stop shop for what we're doing in the digital marketing space. And it really allowed our marketing team to operate nearly autonomously in executing email marketing campaigns, scoring leads, building and A/B testing landing pages, and reporting on the campaigns that we're running. And through the HubSpot's list builder and persona builder, we're able to really segment down our audience that we're looking at. And Don showed how we're able to do that with Insight, and HubSpot allows us to do that on the marketing side. We're able to take our large database of contacts and segment it down by really whatever data we have available to us. And then we also have direct control over what HubSpot calls personalization tokens, and it allows us to, in email as well as landing pages, to personalize the content so that we're speaking directly to individuals. And this goes beyond the early iterations of personalization where we would have the person's first name showing up, or the person, very simple information like that. We're able to personalize on a deeper level based on the data that we have available. And we also selected HubSpot as our CMS provider to build our new website on. There were a number of reasons that led us in that direction. Going back to the autonomy I mentioned previously, that was really at the core of that. We knew we wanted to go with the CMS provider so that we could operate without a lot of intervention from developers or from IT resources. And HubSpot's module-based system allowed us to really do that once we got off the ground and were running with HubSpot. And I have a background in SEO, and HubSpot has a lot of benefits in that regard as well, because CMSs are historically known for being really clunky, have very bad load times, but HubSpot has been able to merge those models of traditionally in-house built websites with CMS and provide kind of the best of both worlds. So the next software that I wanted to talk through is Sprout Social. As I mentioned, HubSpot is almost a one-stop shop for us. One of the tools in HubSpot that we weren't a huge fan of was their social media tool. They do have a tool that would work for many teams, but for ours it was a little lacking in some of the areas. And so after a thorough review of many of the providers on the market, we noticed that there's kind of a minimum standard that all successful platforms meet. They all offer the ability to manage all major platforms. They offer the ability to schedule out posts and the ability to listen to posts through various search terms and tags and things like that. But Sprout Social has a few differentiators that really pointed us in their direction as the platform that we decided on. One of these is the reporting, and you can see here on this screenshot some examples of their reporting. They really go in depth on what they report as far as the performance of your things like that. They also have some sophisticated capabilities that other platforms haven't come really full circle in getting to, which they call primetime posting, which basically after you've been using the platform for a certain amount of time, it gathers insights on when your posts are being interacted with, when your audience is really engaging with you, and then you can set up your posts that you want to go out and basically let the platform run. We're a very data-driven company, and Sprout Social leverages the data that they have available to post on your behalf when it would be most beneficial for you and for your team. The next software that we want to discuss is Triblio. Now this platform is another that we looked at a lot of different competitors for, and at its core what it does is it's a personalization engine. It's a vehicle to enable account-based marketing. HubSpot does have some of the same capabilities that we'll discuss here, but as with Sprout Social, it was a little limited based on what we wanted to do. And we're in a very unique situation here because we do have an audience that is very finite, but it's also distinct in the segments that we want to target. And those segments are distinct in the way that they talk about our services and the way they talk about their own goals. And so that led us to want to find a way to, with one website, be able to launch various messaging to these segments so we can communicate effectively to all of the audiences that we're looking to do business with. And again, with the along the same theme as these other softwares, autonomy was key for us. There's a lot of platforms out there that can do similar things, but a lot of them require much IT resource and dev resource to actually implement this. Triblio is amazing in the fact that it's one script that you have to add to your website, a single script that allows you to personalize any element on any page on your website, as well as fire exit intent offers, have footer offers, it's a very sophisticated platform that's launched completely through one single script, which that was one of the deciding factors for us. Another interesting factor here is that HubSpot has A/B testing capabilities on their landing pages and site pages and email, but what Triblio has, they call A/B testing tracks. It allows you to not only A/B test specific pages, but it also allows you to A/B test within a track. So if a visitor comes and they see version B of your homepage, they click through to your product page, you can also make sure that they're seeing version B of your product page as opposed to going from a very data-centric message to a very revenue-driven message and going back and forth between those messages, which would kind of limit the user experience there. Now the last software that I'd like to discuss is Hotjar, and this is one of the newer additions to our tech stack, and honestly one of the ones that I enjoy the most. This is getting into a little bit more of the creepy side of marketing because of the depth of insight that we can actually glean on any of our users on our website. What it does is it uses heat maps as well as user recordings and a number of other features here to give marketers unprecedented insights into how their website is actually being used. In this screenshot here, you can see this is an example of a heat map showing where people are actually clicking on your website. You can also get move maps and scroll maps that show how people are moving their mouse across, as well as the depth that they're actually scrolling through the page. The one that I enjoy the most is the user recordings, which actually allows you to watch as a user clicks through your website and where they're going, where they may be getting lost. It's actually very entertaining to watch how people interact on the website, but it does, beyond the entertainment, it has a huge amount of value in optimizing a website, in improving the conversion flow and the user flow of a website, and really helps to inform all of the other softwares that we use with our testing on Triblio and HubSpot and how we're actually driving that engagement on our site. And so these are the 4 primary softwares that we're currently using from a digital perspective on our team, and these are tools for marketers. And so I'm going to hand it off to Patricia, who's going to discuss PageFlex and what they offer on the other side of our platform here.
Great, thanks, Michael. I'll get my screen shared here. Okay. And one last. All right, great. So now I want to talk to you about how you can incorporate sales enablement into your marketing strategy. As you saw in the technology stack on the previous screen, as Michael illustrated, the tools on the left were for marketers. The tools on the right are tools by marketers for your sales channel. But let's talk about some common obstacles to extending marketing campaigns and content to your sales channels. There are several barriers companies often face in doing this, and some strongly impact regulated industries. For example, brand control and compliance. While the interest in protecting and ensuring brand integrity is a common concern for all marketers, it's even more critical in an industry where there are heavy rules and limitations to what you say and how you can communicate. Additionally, the time and resources needed to service a large sales channel can be significant. And lastly, the capability to send messages across different channels is often executed by disparate systems. Making all of those available to your sales forces, both partners and employees alike, is often unrealistic. That's where a tool like Pando can come in that focuses on sales enablement and allows marketers to overcome those barriers. The ability to send targeted messaging via multiple channels in a single platform equips marketers with the ability to provide that function. And you don't have to give up compliance to do it. Functions such as approval workflows that allow appropriate management and oversight to the campaigns, as well as the ability to predefine content and personalization options, give the feeling of autonomy to your sales channels without giving up the control. Additionally, the robust reporting not only satisfies common auditing requirements, but it provides excellent analytics and insights into the most valued and used content, supporting marketers in making future decisions on message types and campaign strategies. This allows a company of any size to think global, but act local. So let's take a look at an example. Let me bring up the MX site. So this is the MX Channel Partner Resource Library. MX currently uses this as a means to make professional and effective marketing materials available to their partners in order to aid in their success. We've also loaded a few other sample materials here to illustrate different channels and concepts for marketing materials. Now, a well-designed platform should consider usability and focus on making the experience for those sales users so that they want to come back and use it often. User adoption is critical to the success of any sales enablement strategy. For instance, featured products draw their attention to any assets the marketing team may want to highlight, while trending now feeds show what other users of the platform have found valuable in their efforts. Also, the ability to quickly search and find content is critical to the ability to use the platform and find the materials needed for the campaign that the user may want to execute right away. Here you see a number of materials, some static and some with the ability to co-brand the content. Let's take a look at an example. So here MX has designed this piece to allow for a partner logo, and they control the size and the placement of the content so that it's appropriate to the design. They also include the opportunity there for their partner to incorporate a sales blurb or a call to action. They define the rules for the content, including placement, colors, and size, and now all the partner has to do is personalize it for their use. Now MX can work on a self-serve model for their partners, and they can focus on making the next set of materials instead of responding to tactical requests by each partner. And let's look at a couple of the personalization options here. So here the user can engage with a free fill text form, but once the preview loads and you take a look at where the personalization is applied, it's still meeting the branding and the design that MX set forward previously. It fits within the space and it matches the overall design of the content. Now let's look at another brochure that offers some pre-canned content options. So in this example, you'll see a similar approach, but now the entire content and the images can vary based on what product your partner may want to be able to promote. This is a common print-based scenario, and this is an example where you can have print-based collateral available on the site for users to be able to order, send to a print facility, and have shipped or mailed directly to their customers. Another terrific message or vehicle for your message is email. So let's bring up an email. Email is a terrific vehicle for all types of content, from text and images to maps and links to personalized landing pages. You can also include embedded content and even videos in your email message that goes out to your users. It'll give you the ability to make dynamic and engaging content available for distribution right at the fingertips of your entire sales channel. So here you see an example of dynamic HTML being brought in, the ability to choose and select logos. Libraries of logos can be pre-added for users to select from, or they can upload from their desktop if this was something that was allowed within this template. And can even embed content so that when when the recipients receive the email, the content is engaging, and that can help drive the results that you're looking for. Simultaneously, you can offer the ability to post directly to social media. So as this goes out through email, your sales channels can also post direct to a pre-approved social media platform so that they're reaching as many users as possible. So I'll end the brief tour there. We'll be sending a follow-up email after the webinar to arrange a meeting if you're interested to speak about the Pando platform. So I think at this point we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. We do have a couple questions come through. I believe we've got a couple from for Don on the Insight platform that he'll go ahead and address.
Okay, so the question was, can you share a real example of how Insight and Target improves the return on investment? And I can just basically share with you two. I need to anonymize them, but the first one was we actually used the data, the analytics, to identify additional payments for an FI, a financial institution, that they were basically generating $300 million of payments per quarter to pay off their own internal credit cards. But when we began to do the analysis, we identified a further $500 million a quarter that was being used to pay off a credit card supplied by a third-party financial institution. And the second one was actually even larger, where we identified over, using the Insight capability, and in this case specifically discovered accounts, over $2 billion of payments that their customers were using to pay off somebody else's credit card. So go back to the comment we made on segmentation. Instead of the normal one saying, yeah, this is a credit card user, they have these kind of characteristics, and people like this do these kinds of things, we're able to actually target precisely to an audience of one. In this case, it was several 100,000 people. But specifically, the offer that they could provide them, the APR would be 18%, we can offer you 12%, we can save you so many $1,000s a year. So it's a marketer's dream, and obviously a CFO's dream, that you can actually use these tools to generate real revenue with a fraction of the cost of traditional marketing and segmentation methods. And the second one, which is linked to this, was, and I did go over the demo quite quickly, was just to clarify how much IT support is required when you're actually running those targeted accounts. Now, we actually provide, as I went through, we actually provide a large number of presets, but you can define whatever you want to on the custom filters. And the reality is that IT involvement is nil. Once the platform's in place, it will continually absorb the data on a daily basis, whether you do it real time or whether you do it overnight. And so the setup, if you like, is already done for you, and the learning curve for anyone in marketing or anyone in the company, quite frankly, is a matter of minutes. And so you could actually have multiple campaigns just by clicking and saying, campaign number 1, credit cards greater than 7%, click this, click that, hit the button, select the ad, you're done. And it really is that simple. It does not require programming. It does not require huge amounts of effort. So this is a major departure from having to go to your IT department and ask them to do a custom report every time. It's real time, it's dynamic, and it's hyper-personalized. Just reading another question here. How long does it take to set up and ingest the data for the segmentation to work? Do you need to transform the data? Okay, no, it doesn't. The data is already pulled because we analyze all the payments and all the accounts and so on through the MX aggregation system or the MX basic platform. And so the data is immediately available. And so obviously from day one, when you've actually ingested all that data, or the system's ingested all that data, you can use Insight and Target immediately. And furthermore, depending on how quickly your particular data is updated, some people have real-time systems, some people have a batch system, then essentially all that information will be updated in real time. So as an example, You've identified 100,000 people, you've identified 10,000 of them have got a credit card balance of more than $6,000 or whatever it might be. If that changes overnight, then your data will change overnight. And so the offer will either be present to that customer or it will be withdrawn from that customer. It won't be visible to them. So if they meet the criteria, it appears. If they don't meet the criteria, it disappears. If they suddenly reappear because they've now got more of a balance, then again, the data will update in real time. And it really is incredibly simple to use. And so you don't need to transform the data. The only thing you need to do if you're going to provide an ad is to make sure that you've identified your mobile ad or your online ad, and you can either create a new one or click an existing one or click a link to a URL on your web page to sign up for a credit card. Oh, and another question on here. You're saying the data is available right away after ingestion of the data to the platform. So it would still require some ETL process to ingest the data from customer database into the MX platform. The data will come straight from the payments data. Well, the aggregation data will be held in a kind of a database that will simply say, here's all the balances of your customers. So either the internal payments data, it will hoover up that data and say, it will cleanse it and say, we identified this as a payment to Bank of America credit card or to a mortgage or to a car loan or whatever it might be. And so no, you don't need to do anything. You basically just take that raw data and it will provide you the information. I'm hoping I'm understanding the question correctly. And then from there, you can actually export it to whatever omni-channel communication platform you want. So it could be automated on the phone or on the online banking, or equally, you could actually pop it into your Adobe system, your IBM system, or your teller system, or your customer support people, so they know that if that person calls, they're going to have that data that will be accurate as of the last time it was updated, overnight or real time, to say this customer has a 24.2% APR credit card with competitor A, make sure and offer them a new credit card or a credit card offering with your institution. Oh, another question here. Sorry, they keep coming in. For MX, what percentage of customers who have access to MX PFM tools add external account information? You know, the numbers vary tremendously. They're actually, the number of people who manually add the accounts is less than 10%. But that's why we had that data that's called discovered data. So, and in some cases, by the way, the number is as high as 45%. But overall, most people will maybe add one account. People who begin to use the platform add multiple accounts, usually about 5. But the number of people who actually do this is still relatively small. And that's why the discovered data capability in the MX platform is so crucial. So for those of you who don't understand the definitions on here, if you're a consumer, you bank with Billy Bob's Credit Union, you have the option of adding in your Wells Fargo or your Citibank mortgage or your Capital One credit card or your car loan, and then that institution will see all of your financial life. That's what we refer to as aggregation. Discovered accounts will say if that's your primary account, even without aggregating, I can actually see whether you've made a payment to a Bank of America credit card or to somebody else's auto loan or whatever it might be. And although it sounds obvious that that should be fairly easy to see, the reality is that usually it's all gobbledygook in terms of data stream that's coming in. It'll be 76521 BC 64, $1,600. And so it's very difficult for marketing departments to analyze and extrapolate the real information in there. And what we do is we actually translate that. We dig in there. Our algorithms work out that's actually Bank of America credit card, 1,600, whatever it might be. And so the discovered accounts will allow you to analyze essentially 90% plus of your payments. And that's where the majority of the value add comes. So you've got a tier or an hierarchy of how much specificity you have to segment. If you aggregate, then basically you get everything: APR, balances, fees, the full Monty. If you use discovered accounts, you know the person, obviously. You know that it's Michael. You know that that person is making a payment to a Bank of America credit card or a Chase credit card or whoever it might be. And in many cases, we can actually calculate the APR from that data. So in that case, it's closer to 90% plus if it's using discovered accounts. If it's using aggregated, it will vary by institution, but it can be between 5 and 45%.
Thanks, Don. We've got a question that came through about HubSpot specifically, so I'll go ahead and answer that. The question was, You mentioned that HubSpot provides the ability to personalize more than simply using name, surname of the customer, and the email. Could you expand a bit on what would be another personalization field? So it's really whatever data you have available you can personalize by. So some ways that we've used this, following the traditional marketing funnel based on where a specific user is in that marketing funnel, we can personalize our calls to action based on what we know about how long they've been interacting with our content. So if they just barely download their first white paper, if they are very much at the top of the funnel, then we can personalize a call to action section on a landing page or an email to be another offer that they may be interested in based on the interest that they showed initially. Now, on the flip side of that, if this is someone who's been interacting with our content, maybe we've seen them at an industry event, they've attended one of our webinars, they're very much further down that funnel, then that call to action section may be personalized to them to try to get them in touch with one of our reps for a demo or something that's more in line with where they are currently. For financial institutions specifically, if you were to use HubSpot, you could also personalize based on other data points that you have available, similar to what we're talking about with rates and things like that. You could personalize that. You can personalize the colors on the site. There's really no limit to what you can personalize and what you can test as a marketing team. The only limit is what data you have available and those context fields that you've actually programmed into your HubSpot. And then the last question we have here, I'm going to hand this one back over to Amanda, is why we chose Pando for the solution set that Patricia presented today. So Amanda, do you want to field that one?
Sure, yeah. So we're looking at a bunch of different solutions. Our challenge here was that we work a lot with online banking and mobile banking providers. And oftentimes the value and the content and the things that we're able to provide specifically for our products isn't easy to translate into the online banking providers or mobile banking providers' branding. So what we found was that with this tool specifically, we were able to allow the partners to access the content and co-brand it. But even beyond that, they were able to do that not just on print, but also email and social, which were the channels that we found a lot of the other tools and systems did not offer. The other side of this was from a sales team perspective, we continued to look even at Salesforce and HubSpot and other tools that we're using on a daily basis to allow our sales team to actually execute content across multiple channels and add their contact information and send it via email and track those engagements. And there just really is not a tool out there that allows a marketing person to work the way that we typically like to work and create the materials and the constraints that we like to put around the design and the text and those kinds of things, but then also give the sales team flexibility to add their own personal spin and contact information and those things to the content. So those were the reasons why we really moved forward with the selection of the PageFlex platform. And so far, we're really enjoying our engagement with them.
Thanks, Amanda, and I appreciate all the questions that we received today. We do want to be cognizant of your time, so if we weren't able to get to your question, we will be following up with you to make sure that you get the answers you're looking for, and we will also be sending out a recording of this webinar if you wanted to go back and review it, or if you have other colleagues who you think will benefit from the content we discussed today. So thanks again for joining us, and hope you have a wonderful day.